you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Can you leave it round the back, please?
Sure, no problem.
See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with a Ring video doorbell. For great Black Friday savings on selected devices, go to ring.com and major retailers today.
Nick for Rory at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
More on the political row in a moment, plus we'll be going around Europe. But let's get your take on these tiers. Des is in Hampstead in North London. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Nice to speak to you this morning, sir.
Good to have you on, sir. Tell me, from your position as you look down at what's going on around the rest of the country, where do you think the government's going with all this?
When you get, as I believe you're aware, I'm one of the maintenance managers of the UK of the hospitality units on the transport network.
I didn't know that, sir. Right, okay, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, it's just devastating, the shops, and I mean, London has just been destroyed, really.
Yes, it has.
So the traffic's still mad. But around the country, it's just devastating, and it's the minimum wage people that are basically taking the brunt of these restrictions.
So you go, as part of your job, you go around the country, do you, Des? Is that what you do?
Well, I'm involved in projects, maintenance.
But do you mind my asking, where have you been and where you've seen that, there's just no trade, there's no commerce, people just not doing anything? Where have you been?
As far I used to do Scotland, but someone else took that over. So all the way up to nearly Scotland, I suppose, all the way down South Coast, East Coast, West Coast.
And just nothing happening.
So Cornwall is everyone's fine in Cornwall.
Yeah, they're tier one.
Texas down there, but London has just been destroyed,
I totally agree. London has been destroyed, as have other parts of the country. Safe travelling when you do travel, Des. Thank you for that. Santosh in Gillingham. Santosh, what do you want to tell me? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Not at all. What can you tell me?
I'm not very happy at all.
You're in Gillingham, Kent, I assume, not Gillingham, Dorset.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely awful. I know one of your previous callers did say that there was a prison on the Isle of Sheppey, and but I know there's over 200 patients apparently in Maritime Medway Hospital. But they haven't all come from Gillingham or from Rainham or very local areas. They've come from a much wider area because there aren't enough hospitals in the area to deal with this and other things that they need to. But I just can't believe what Boris and the Cabinet and his advisors are actually doing. They need to look at things. We do need to look at things like people's compliance. Encouraging people not to go out unnecessarily. And I'm just devastated. I cannot meet another person inside. I'm fortunate. I have a room, or more than one room, where I can sit in a room and to sit and spend time with a friend and have a coffee.
Hang on, you're not meant to do that.
I know, exactly.
No mixing with other households indoors, unless they're in your support bubble.
Then no one's clarified what a bubble is. I mean, it's like Christmas bubbles. Yeah. Whatever. Perhaps he needs to be a Hammers fan to know about it. But
that's, of course, the West Ham football song, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles. He might have blown it with his electoral chances if he's not careful. Santosh, I can hear the angry voice. Please excuse me moving on. Thank you for the position. But I want to look across the whole of Europe and remind you what we heard from the Prime Minister at that briefing yesterday.
All our friends around the world are grappling with the same question of how to keep without retreating into a winter of hibernation. In Italy, there's a nightly curfew. In Germany, hospitality will remain closed until the 20th of December, and in France until the 20th of January. Across the whole of the UK, measures remain in place to control the virus. Under our winter plan, England will return to a tiered system of local restrictions.
But what of other parts of Europe? Let's go to Lucy Hoff, who's LBC's Brussels correspondent, obviously in Brussels. Lucy.
Well, Nick, we've got a meeting of the government later today. We're expecting some changes to be announced to the measures that are currently in place. We're not expecting anything major given how severe the situation still is in the hospitals here, but we are expecting to be made. And you might remember that until recently, Belgium was Europe's worst affected country, so there is a need not to go back on that progress.
Lucy Hoff reporting from Brussels in Belgium for LBC. Let's go to Spain, and Stephen Bergen, who's a freelance journalist, joins me from Barcelona. What's the picture in Spain, Stephen? Morning.
Good morning. Well, we've got a curfew imposed by central government that we've been imposed several weeks ago, which is between 10 or 11 at night and 6 in the morning, depending where you live. But the rest of the measures have been kind of farmed out to the regional governments, so it depends where you live. Here, for example, in Catalonia, the bars and restaurants have just reopened after being shut for a month. Whereas in Madrid, and certainly on the evidence of the past few weeks where the bars and restaurants have been open in Madrid and closed here.
Stephen, here in the UK, a lot of front pages, even newspaper titles such as the Daily Mail and the Daily Telegraph, which I remind listeners, of course, are conservative supporting newspapers, highly critical of what the government has done here in the United Kingdom as pertains to England. Were you to stop the average Spaniard, if there is such a person, how would he or she react to how the government has handled it there?
I think more or less favourably. I think there's plenty. I think there's a lot of criticism about closing bars and restaurants for obvious reasons. I mean, that's very much part of Mediterranean social life. But also, I think in general the theme constantly criticising each other. If you ask, everyday people, I think they'd say the government hasn't done a great job, but they haven't done any worse than anyone else.
Thanks for your report, Stephen Bergen, freelance journalist talking to me from Barcelona. More of your calls on this. Daniel, you'll be the first when we get to you. Also coming up after the news, another of those convicted terrorists is freed. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. This is Abdallah Roof Abdallah, who was visited in prison by the
I was just listening to LBC, the London news channel, and apparently there's a nightly curfew in Italy, so that will be a bit of a challenge for you. You probably have to do an overnighter in Italy. Well, it's current. I don't know when it started. Well, you might be able to get an exemption if you're passing through. That's what I was thinking, because I don't know how these fucking lorry drivers will manage, because that'll mean that all, that'll mean all lorry drivers will be driving during the day, which they don't like to do. A lot of lorry drivers like to just drive at night to avoid the traffic. Oh right, so you'll have to do it in about. Well, you'll yeah. So you'll probably do it in 3 days then, when you'll have 2 overnighters, I would have thought, no? Well, yeah, but that's not the point, is it? You'll need to stop overnight, otherwise you'll get nicked. Well, it's definitely a fact for Italy, mate. Yeah, they've just said it. It's definitely the case for Italy. That's it. Yeah, good idea. Yeah, good idea, mate. Good idea. Yeah, it probably might. Yeah, certainly is, buddy. Do you know this will be a generation of lost education for our kids? Yeah, well, Johnny's 13, isn't he? So obviously. Yeah, he was 13 last August. So, yeah, 14 next year. Yeah, well, we're old cunts now, mate. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Josie doesn't have kids, you know. Well, it's not that, mate. I mean, you know, she'll want to be totally secure before she does. You know, there's no guarantee, is there, anymore? It's all fucking food. Yeah. Yeah. So, what are your movements today? What are you doing? Yeah. How are you going to do that then? You're just going to leave it until you're going to come over here for a couple of months holiday and then go back there and then send all the stuff out when they get a signature, yeah? Yeah. But they don't have a contract with the carrier. That's the problem, isn't it? The carrier won't talk to them. Well, the contract is with you and the carrier, isn't it? So that's a matter. No. All right, mate. Ta-ta.
Mesi è giovane e delicato, con un sapore dolce e gentile. Dai 20 ai 26 mesi è armonico ed equilibrato al palato. Dai 27 ai 34 mesi è aromatico, con sentori di frutta secca, spezie e noce moscata. A 40 mesi è intenso, grazie al suo gusto deciso e speziato e al suo profumo avvolgente. Scopri Parmigiano Reggiano 40 mesi e tutte le altre stagionature. Parmigiano Reggiano, quello vero, è uno solo.
Maestro, oggi ci racconta una favola!
Sì, se ce la faccio.
Mal di gola? Puoi provare Neoborocillina. Combatte il bruciore e disinfetta la gola.
E visse.
Neoborocillina, da 70 anni esperto della gola. È un medicinale. Leggere il foglio
This is fucking LBC!
Pronto? Ciao! Immergiti in una nuova dimensione d'ascolto con Galaxy Buds Live.
Oh, I don't know what's happened there.
Design innovativo. Ascolta la musica, chiama e godi del suono cristallino con la cancellazione attiva dei rumori. Cambia live. Scopri di più su Samsung.com.
How can every channel be this fucking Italian
Preparati al
bird?
Natale con e super sconti. Solo con il Super Weekend hai tutta la convenienza che desideri.
Fino a domenica, melanzane a 1,19
€. Something's gone wrong here.
e bovino 500 grammi a 2,15 €. Il Super Weekend inizia già da venerdì.
Lidl, anch'io.
It's oh so quiet.
Prima dell'alba, prima di un nuovo giorno,
Oh, so
prima del caffè, prima della scuola, prima di mettersi al lavoro. C'è Bosch. Caldo, sempre. Semplice, sempre. Pronti ad affrontare la notte.
Right, well, we've had enough of that. DAB in Malta has been taken over by the Italians on all frequencies. So what we'll have is a little bit of this. It can't be there.
Mooney,
Se vuoi la luna, chiedicela. Messaggio pubblicitario, servizio erogato da Banca 5 e distribuito in collaborazione con Sisal Pay SPA.
L'essenza della vita.
Oh, channels.
press pause on the calls for a moment. Here we go. Rob Henderson, lockdown was a complete waste of time. The tiers imposed on rural locations are ridiculous. Glad to hear Cornwall has been given a fair tier, though. Well, I think your point is a good one. If you realise that in Tunbridge and Malling in Kent, they went into lockdown in tier 1. They come out of lockdown in tier 3. So how has that helped? Good point, Mr. Henderson. Shez says people are sick of this. The government has no idea what they're doing. Same subject. This is interesting. Annie, your caller about prisons in Swale in Kent. This was somebody who pointed out that 90 prisoners in 3 jails in the Swale area have had COVID, and the caller was saying that that's skewed the figures, skewed the figures. And he says prisoners may not mix in the community, but prison staff, visitors and wardens do. How else did the virus get into the prisons? Therefore, it can get out. That is a fair observation. Thank you for that. Let's get up to Kendall and David. David, good morning. I haven't got my map of the country out. What are you in tier 3? Morning.
We're in tier 2. No,
in tier 2. Okay.
But basically, I manage singers, and it has been, I mean, hospitality, and I don't normally attack Conservative governments, but when you have a situation where they are protecting big business at the expense of small business, it is slightly concerning when you've got a right of centre government doing this.
Yeah.
Because
is it not concerning that you have a Conservative government presiding over the loss of so much liberty as well? We're even told which way to walk through this.
That's precisely the point.
Yeah, I mean, under a Conservative government, I'm told which way to walk through a supermarket. I couldn't have made that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm lucky because my artists are basically overseas, so they're able to. I mean, in South Africa, they're having shows with half capacity at the moment. But you can't have big supermarkets being allowed to do all the things that they're allowed to do, and restaurants and bars and small shops being closed.
Yeah.
It's just. I mean, I'm not usually vitriolic, but I think that it's pretty shambolic. They've got everything the wrong way round.
I think they have, and it doesn't, to me, seem to be getting any better. And we desperately need to see that economic impact. I was saying that we were talking about with Robert Jenrick. David, thank you. Let's go to Claire in Haringey. You're on the radio, Claire. What are you going to tell me? Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Nick. Well, the problem with the tier 2 in London is that for anyone who runs a small venue, we're all expecting to be in tier 3. But regardless of that, even in tier 2, there's no forward planning possible. I mean, I don't know whether to plan any events for just in 7 days flat for the run up to Christmas. Never mind, I haven't a clue what to do about January or February.
So just remind everybody what you do then. What is it you
I run a small venue, a small concert venue.
Oh, right, I see. Okay, so normally you're putting on, you put on shows. You're not talking about catering here, or just booking artists, is what you're saying.
I'm talking about concerts and theatre and parties, which is all the income, the main revenue for the year.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about the new year. And my issue with this is that there's no financial support. I mean, we're getting £1,000 from the council, and that's meant to cover covers half the rent and none of the revenues that you'd never get at this time that you get normally at this time of year is going to be there. And my issue with this is that back in July, I was absolutely fulminating about the fact that